What if I told you that deep in the heart of Afghanistan, there lies a place that once symbolized America's unmatched power, and later, its greatest humiliation, a place where history, war, and geopolitics collided, and where the echoes of 2 decades of conflict still haunt the empty runways today. This is the untold story of America's first airbase in Bagram, from its rise as the command center of a global superpower, to its silent fall in the dead of night. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just history. It's the story of how Afghanistan became the graveyard of empires once again. Before it became a fortress of American might, Bagram Airbase had already witnessed decades of war. Built in the 1950s by the Soviet Union, Bagram was strategically positioned about 40 kilometers north of Kabul, a gateway to the Afghan heartland. When the Soviets invaded Afghanistan in 1979, Bagram became their stronghold, the center of air operations, logistics, and military command. Fighter jets, attack helicopters, and thousands of troops swarmed the base. But history had other plans. By 1989, the Soviet Empire collapsed, and their soldiers left Bagram behind, defeated, disillusioned, and drained. That base, left in ruins, would soon attract another empire, the United States of America. The September 11th attacks changed everything. In the wake of the Twin Towers' destruction, America launched a war on terror, targeting the Taliban regime that sheltered Osama bin Laden. Within weeks, U.S. Special Forces and CIA teams entered Afghanistan, and by late 2001, American engineers, soldiers, and airmen were back at Bagram, rebuilding it into a modern, high-tech base. What had once been Soviet concrete now became America's front line in the war on terror. Runways were expanded to handle massive C-130s and F-16s. Hardened shelters, radar systems, intelligence centers, and even detention facilities were built. Inside the heavily guarded detention facility in Parwan, hundreds of detainees were interrogated, many accused of being Taliban or Al-Qaeda members. Reports emerged of abuse, torture, and human rights violations, leading many to call it the Guantanamo of Afghanistan. For years, the base symbolized both safety and fear, freedom for some, oppression for others. Yet, for the U.S. military, it was the perfect vantage point, a place from which drone strikes, air raids, and operations across Afghanistan could be launched instantly. It became the nerve center of the American war machine, buzzing day and night with aircraft, convoys, and coded radio chatter. As years passed, the war dragged on. The Taliban didn't vanish, they adapted. Despite over $2 trillion spent and 20 years of fighting, the U.S. found itself caught in the same web that had trapped the Soviets. By 2011, with Osama bin Laden dead, questions began to rise. What exactly are we still doing in Afghanistan? Gradually, troop numbers decreased. By 2014, NATO officially ended its combat mission. But Bagram remained operational, America's last footprint in the country. By 2020, the Trump administration signed a deal with the Taliban, setting the stage for America's eventual withdrawal. If you're still here, make sure to subscribe, because what comes next will shock you. Now, let's uncover how one night changed everything for the world's most powerful military. It happened without warning. In the early hours of July 2, 2021, under the cover of darkness, U.S. troops left Bagram Airbase quietly, secretly, and completely. No farewell ceremony, no official handover, not even a radio call. The local Afghan commander woke up to find the base completely empty, the power gone, the gates unlocked, and looters rushing in. In a matter of hours, the most powerful airbase in Afghanistan was abandoned. For many Afghans, it was a symbol of betrayal. For historians, it was déjà vu, the ghost of the Soviet withdrawal, reborn. The same base that once launched drones and strikes was now silent, its control towers lifeless, its runways cracked. Just weeks later, in August 2021, the Taliban surged across Afghanistan with shocking speed. Provincial capitals fell one by one, and on August 15, 2021, Kabul fell. Once again, Bagram, the fortress of a superpower, fell into enemy hands. Taliban fighters raised their flag over the same walls that once carried the stars and stripes. Captured American vehicles, ammunition, and aircraft were now under Taliban control. For the world, it was a powerful image, history repeating itself in real time. For America, it was a harsh reminder. Afghanistan is, and always has been, the graveyard of empires. Today, Bagram Airbase stands as a silent monument. What was once a symbol of dominance is now a reminder of impermanence. The hangars are empty. The radar towers are still. And the runways that once carried F-16s now echo with silence and dust. Some reports say the Taliban and Chinese officials have visited the site, exploring its potential for reconstruction. But to the Afghan people, Bagram remains a ghost of the past, a reminder of decades of foreign intervention and broken promises. Bagram isn't just a military story. It's a lesson in history, power, and human endurance. The British, the Soviets, and now the Americans all believed they could control Afghanistan, all left with scars. For the soldiers who served there, Bagram is a memory of courage, sacrifice, and loss. For Afghans, it's a symbol of pain, resilience, and survival. And for historians, it's evidence that even the mightiest empires must face the limits of their reach. Because in the end, no matter how strong the fortress or how advanced the weapons, the land of Afghanistan bows to no empire. From Soviet tanks to American jets, from power to silence, Bagram Airbase has seen it all. Its story is not just about one base. It's about the rise and fall of empires, the cost of war, and the illusion of control. And as history shows again and again, Afghanistan is, indeed, the graveyard of empires. If you found this story fascinating, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story will take you even deeper into the hidden history of war, power, and forgotten places.